You have probably heard a lot of times that with the scientific revolution and with the scientific progress of the past centuries, religion and the concept of God have become something of the past. And we don't need God anymore to explain the universe and to understand reality. This is a very popular idea, and one of the persons that has contributed a lot to this trend, in my view at least, is Stephen Hawking, who is perhaps the most popular scientist in recent times. So, in this video, I would like to comment on some of his claims and argue why I and also other scientists don't agree with him when it comes to the topic of God and religion. But before I do that, let me be very clear on one point. So, Stephen Hawking was a brilliant and very original scientist, and he has pushed our understanding of gravity and of quantum field theory in curved backgrounds really forward, right? And as a person, I have a tremendous respect for him. Seeing his optimism and his way of coping with his physical limitations is truly inspiring. There is no doubt about that. However, when it comes to religion, I tend to disagree profoundly with him. And the goal of this video is to take a couple of popular claims he made and show why I think that there is little substance to them. I will start with a famous quote from the conclusion of his book, The Grand Design, written together with Leonard Mlodinow. I take this quote because it became quite popular in the press when the book came out, and so a lot of people might have heard it. It goes as follows. Because there is a law like gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing in the manner described in chapter 6 of that same book. Spontaneous creation is the reason there is something rather than nothing, why the universe exists, why we exist. It is not necessary to invoke God to light the blue touch paper and set the universe going. Well, even though this quote has been repeated in different media a lot of times, I'm afraid it makes little sense. No? So first of all, the combination create itself is an oxymoron, it's a plain contradiction. We say that something is created when it begins to exist, right? But in order to do anything at all, and in particular creating something, you have to exist, right? So obviously, nothing can create itself. But let me go to the deeper point of criticism of the quote, which is the following. Even if we go along with the claim that the universe created itself because of laws such as gravity, in whatever sense that might be understood, it avoids the logical and deeper question of where do the laws of nature come from, right? This is the essence of the teleological argument for the existence of God, which is as old as humanity, and which we can summarize as follows, right? If there are laws, then there must be a lawgiver, an intelligence behind those laws. You find this idea in the Principia Mathematica of Isaac Newton, where he says, this most beautiful system of the sun, planets and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. So there have been rivers of ink written about this topic, and I encourage everyone struggling with the idea of God to think about it and to read on the topic. So if you have come across that quote of the Grand Design and we're thinking that science shows that we don't need God to understand our universe, please don't be impressed by it. Right? Once you dig up a little bit, you will see that it doesn't deliver what it promises. The second quote I wanted to talk about is one I heard myself when Stephen Hawking came to Leuven, where I was studying at the time, to give a popular lecture to a broad audience of students and researchers. It is a talk that he gave several times in different places, and you will find a link to a recording of the talk in the description of this video. At some point, Hawking claims the following. Aristotle, the most famous of the Greek philosophers, believed the universe had existed forever. Something eternal is more perfect than something created. The motivation for believing in an eternal universe was the desire to avoid invoking divine intervention to create the universe and set it going. Conversely, those who believed the universe had a beginning used it as an argument for the existence of God as the first cause or prime mover of the universe. I take this quote because it illustrates a very deep conviction he had, in my view, which is that if we can show that the universe did not have a beginning, or that it doesn't make sense to talk about the beginning of the universe, then there is no need for God. And in this quote he places the great Aristotle, who believed the universe was eternal, in contrast to other people who said that there is a first cause, a prime mover, who created the universe, which would be God. Well, the irony of the quote is that if you do a little bit of research, nothing more than using Google for a couple of minutes, you will find that the philosopher who argued for the existence of a prime mover, a first cause, was precisely Aristotle. Aristotle believed that the universe was eternal, but he also argued that in order for the universe to exist, there must be an immaterial being, a prime mover, God, who is the cause of everything we see. In fact, his argument was later on used by a lot of Christian thinkers to show that God must exist. Among them, the most known is Thomas Aquinas. This is a very important point. So if you study the arguments of Aquinas for the existence of God, he never relies on the universe having a beginning. In fact, even though he gave arguments for the existence of God, he also argued that one cannot prove that the universe had a beginning, contrary to some theologians of his time. So for him, whether the universe had a beginning or not is absolutely irrelevant for the existence of God. Both an eternal universe as a universe with a beginning require God for their existence. For more comments on this, I leave a couple of links in the description of the video. But for now, I'm done with what I wanted to comment. I only finish by saying that the purpose of this video is not criticizing Stephen Hawking, but more broadly, what I wanted to show is that it is not because someone is a big expert on one field, like physics, that everything he says about other domains of knowledge, like philosophy or theology, makes sense, right? I say this because I see more and more scientists going off the boundaries of their discipline and claiming that religion is obsolete, that science shows that there is no God, that people who believe in God are stupid, and so forth. So this is my main message. Don't be easily impressed. Remain critic and don't accept any authority argument on a topic when it comes from someone who is an expert on a very different field, because he might very well be talking nonsense. I hope you enjoyed this video and see you in the next one.